So, Ant, tell me about your thoughts on Amiibo, your history with Amiibo. What do you think of Amiibo now? What did you think about it back then? What do you think about it during the middle of its lifespan? Give me the whole
Just
scoop.
there's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So Amiibo, I don't talk about. I think I've posted pictures every so often, but I have an almost complete Amiibo set. I've been collecting since the beginning. I think, like most people, it started with I'll get the characters I want. Yeah, I'll get the one or two that seem cool. And then I found out I like more characters than I thought. And then it ended up being a spiral. I think like that first Christmas I got Mario, and then that was it. I got myself a Pac-Man, a Yoshi, and then before I know it, I'm buying more Amiibo than I am games in terms of how much money I'm spending in single sittings. And yeah, now I have almost all of them. I think when it comes to game usefulness, Amiibo are pretty all over the place. There's a couple good uses that have made me be like, okay, I'll pull these out of the cabinet to use. But for the most part, I just think I have a collector's instinct, if we couldn't tell. And then just these little pieces of plastic just spoke to me, because it finally felt like something I could actually work towards attaining. I'm never going to have a complete video game collection for any console. Some of these are just too out there, but I can look at these subsets of Amiibo and be like, okay, there's something that can make look nice, they could have usefulness, and I could attach stories to a lot of them. Because man, if we go year by year, wave by wave, there are stories attached to some of these Amiibo.
I was kind of the same way as you. I started off with I said, you know what, we're gonna make sure that nothing bad happens here. We're sticking to basically the Smash Brothers line. That's what we want to do. I was never a big figurine kind of collector when it came to video games, but this really kind of got me, it hooked me just because of the concept of these Smash Brothers figurines are in the real world, because one of my favorite parts about the Smash Brothers series was the trophy collecting and seeing the trophies of the artwork of these characters on the Fighter Select screen. Now, in the palm of your hands, you can twist them around, you can see these iconic pieces of artwork, because a lot of these Smash Brothers renders became kind of the go-to artwork for a lot of these characters, because some of them didn't have artwork to really base off of for most people. So characters like Captain Falcon or Fox or what have you, their Smash Brothers renders are generally the renders that people use when they have to show those characters. So it was really cool to get those renders in figurine form. But prior to Amiibo, Nintendo had other endeavors in this space. Did you ever get into the e-reader at all?
Oh, I wish I would have pulled that out. I do own an e-reader, and I think I own all but one or two of the NES games, and I have Mario Party. Yeah, it's not totally unheard of now that there's that context behind it. I know that there was the Pokemon Rumble things also. Which I've never seen. I've never even seen one of those out in the wild.
I have every one of them. I have a complete set.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I found a complete set on eBay, and I was just like, you know what? I gotta do it. Because it's just so bizarre, and the game is so bad that I have to get them. That game is horrible. But that was it was odd, because Nintendo announced NFC support in the Wii U gamepad, like 6 months before E3 2012, I believe, and then later in 2012 they announced Skylanders is coming to the Wii U, but it would not use NFC. So for a while there, that NFC chip was basically worthless on the Wii U. And I think by 2013 they tried to do something with Pokemon, which sounded like this big home run. It was this idea that it's just like, oh wow, you're gonna do this Skylanders thing, but with Pokemon. That's a dream come true, but there's so many asterisks with that, where it's like, oh, but the figurines are exclusive to GameStop, and it's for a downloadable only eShop game. That is bad, because Pokemon Rumble was never anything special, but Pokemon Rumble U is the epitome of nothing special. It goes further than nothing special. It's just bad.
I mean, a lot on the Wii U was realistically them just throwing as much as they can at the wall to see what sticks. And yeah, Pokemon got, and they looked gross. Like, they looked like paper mache. Like, I just remember them looking like they were cheap. So there wasn't, like, they assumed the name brand would do enough to make it a worthwhile venture.
In person, they're kind of cooler. It's kind of this cool little low poly thing. I always thought it would have been cool if Nintendo did more like low poly amiibo figures, where you got maybe Mario 64 Mario or something along those lines. I thought that would have been amazing, but these felt more so low poly for cheapness, both in terms of in-game graphics, keeping them low poly, and also just, hey, it's low poly, so this should, there's not as much intricacies in these figures. But that was kind of their first endeavor with NFC on Wii U. I think in Japan they might have given you the option to use like a credit card with NFC, where you tap that on the gamepad. I'm not 100% sure. I'm more so like 94% sure that they allowed that in Japan.
I mean, I know when it came to like the American market, I think people were a little more skeptical around Pokemon, because the Skylanders thing was obviously set, like sales-wise worked really well, but I think a lot of consumers just were really starting to get sick of the idea of all these games being locked behind these plastic pieces, because there was Pokemon, Lego came out like relatively soon after. People were getting starting to get tired of Activision doing Skylanders every year. It's like, oh god, now Nintendo's doing it. Like, oh my god, this trend won't stop. And they never made any more past like that first wave, I don't think.
No, it was they pretty much just did about 20 or so Pokemon figures for Rumble U, and it was kind of just it came out, it happened, that was about it. But only a couple months later, they announced their intention to do NFC figurines, where they kind of showed off in an investor call this image of like a Mario amiibo doing kind of the stock like Mickey Mouse pose of just holding up his hand. And that opened up the possibility of like, what could this be? And at E3 2014, they announced amiibo in one of their best E3 presentations of all time, in my opinion. I absolutely love E3 2014.
The Reggie Iwata fight, right?
Yeah, and not only announced Mii fighters, but they moved into Iwata using a Mario amiibo in Smash Brothers, and then they kind of led into introducing amiibo, and that was the first case of amiibo being shown was Super Smash Brothers, and they could not have picked a better and worse series to introduce amiibo with, because everybody was interested in amiibo. I mean, like, not at first in terms of like, the announcement. I think some people were like, hey, I'm into this, hey, I'm not.
At first, everyone was like, this is the dumbest name they could have possibly thought of. That was the first thought.
Hey, the plural of amiibo is just amiibo.
I know. I have to correct people so many times when they're like, you have so many amiibos. And I'm like, listen here.
You dumb
I absolutely
ass.
do not.
Yeah, but the original prototype shown at E3 2014 looked really high quality. They looked really good. The problem is, with basing them off the Smash Brothers renders, a lot of them were in poses. It was very strange, because Smash Brothers was the main game for amiibo, yet they introduced amiibo with a Smash Brothers game where all the character renders were very lively. They were very like up, and they were jumping, and they were in the air, and all of that. And they decided to pick the Smash Brothers game to introduce amiibo with, where they finally had these renders that were like, oh, very lively. Because you look back at the Brawl renders, and they were very grounded. Those would work better as like figures. But a lot of the figures had kind of poles holding them up.
Yeah, I remember very iconically the Link one with his just pea stain yellow just coming out of his ooh.
That happened later. That happened later, because at E3 they had like these just like kind of metallic poles looking things holding them up. So that was like, all right, this is like, all right, I would prefer if they weren't held up with these poles or whatever, but hey, whatever. But yeah, so what was your thought on amiibo? Were you immediately drawn to amiibo when they announced it, or did that take until it finally released in later that year?
When they attached it with the game, and then it's like, oh, and we're also releasing a bunch of figures the same day, I remember just thinking, that's a lot of money to spend on a single day. Like, that's a lot to worry about. I don't think I'm going to care. I bought the game, and that was it. And then, like I said, I got Mario for Christmas, and then it snowballed. But at first, it was like, man, I don't know. And the functionality didn't seem all that interesting. And I still don't think it's interesting. The whole idea of, oh, you can train an NPC to be your personal, and then bring it to your friend's house. And it's like, that's like, I maybe someone out there has done it, but the idea of like going to a friend's house to play Smash and then not play, and you like just play with the thing as like it just seemed weird to me. It was never a scenario that I wanted to partake in. So it immediately was just about the plastic. It was just about having cool plastic to sit on the shelf. When I got the Mario, it sat on my desk, and I'm like, that's really cool. The times I could tell you that Amiibo has touched the gamepad, less than a handful, I think. Yeah, no, there are some games that do it better than others. There are some games better than others, but Smash, absolutely not. I don't think.
I think for Smash Brothers, they did the best implementation that they could have without annoying everybody, because the worst possible one would have been you unlock characters that way. To be fair, like I think like if that was the only way to unlock them, that would have been like game over, absolutely ridiculous. No, thank you. But if it was like an alternative way to unlock characters,
Well, see, I remember that being a thing, but then I remember the discussions being, God, if Nintendo started doing this pay to unlock DLC stuff, I remember it sounding like a logistical nightmare at the time, because all the rumor theories about what Amiibo could be just started to, and we saw some of the worst of it. When we get deep into it, we see like Amiibo Festival, which was just like the worst possible outcome we can get out of this. And then it was like Amiibo became really good when they were just like this slight little aesthetical upgrade, and but it took them a while. And I just remember there being all this panic regarding if these things are going to actually be useful, because there were all these discussions on, I forget if it was on Wave 1 or not, but people figured out how you can scan the bottom of an Amiibo box to get the functionality without needing to open it. And then they started putting metal things on the bottom of it, so it became, okay, do you just want the content? Do you care about the figure? You can't make the functionality that good, because then you're locking content behind a $15 thing. Yeah, it logistically, it sounded like a nightmare.
I think there was a discussion. I think Nintendo stated something along the lines of like Amiibo, like when they were first announcing Amiibo, I think they said how it wouldn't, they wouldn't wall off content from the users, that like substantial content. But then we started to see like within the next year or so, like that was not the case, and they were starting to wall off specific content. I assume like, you know, like we're jumping ahead like crazy here, but you go to something like Metroid Samus Returns, you know, locking modes behind the Metroid Amiibo, which were hard to find.
Skyward Sword too. Skyward Sword HD did that too.
Yeah. Where with Skyward Sword and whatnot, I think Nintendo put those in there and locked them behind Amiibo because they didn't see much value behind it. But as a player, you look at that, it's just like, that's a whole ass mode that you're locking behind this stuff. And, you know, obviously you have Amiibo Festival, and then there were other things like, you know, eventually we had some free-to-play stuff like Mini Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge, where, but that was free and you unlocked the levels via Amiibo, which, you know, hey, you know, that's okay because it's free. But yeah, they start to dip their toes into Amiibo unlocking more, but like you said, it's definitely a huge balance of like trying to figure out what's the best kind of Amiibo support. And because of that, I don't think Amiibo support ever got to a point where you kind of look at these things and go like, damn, this is good. And you kind of had to look at it more like these are just cool figurines that unlock bonuses. But the amount of time where it's just like, just the fact that they work in so many different games is really reassuring. It's just this idea that, hey, it may unlock kind of garbage little bonuses in one game. However, it works across tons of them. So, you know, there's that. But yeah, the figurines looked quite good at E3. They were sculpted very well. Just the fact that we were getting these bizarre characters that never get merch, where you have Wii Fit Trainer and just weird stuff like that. That was really exciting. And they announced some games that would get support early on. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Mario Kart 8, Yoshi's Woolly World.
I forget when 3DS happened, because 3DS they had to release the little, I have it actually, the little pod little thing puck before they did the, yeah,
that was like 2015. That was like 2015, and I think I remember originally people were speculating what was the Amiibo to buy based on how it worked in so many games, and that was Yoshi. think Yoshi was the amiibo to get because Yoshi worked in more games than any other amiibo. But at the end of the day, it never really mattered. We got to Smash Brothers for Wii U launch, and that was Wave 1. The amiibo originally released in waves because we pretty much just got Smash Brothers at first. We got Mario, Peach, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, Link, Fox, Samus, Wii Fit Trainer, Villager, Pikachu, Kirby, and Marth in November 2014. Alongside, that was a lot. That was 12 amiibo, and at $13 a pop.
12 amiibo for $13 each. Yeah, on top of the game coming out. Man.
But it was also, like I said, the original prototype designs had, if they had to have something holding them up, it was just these metallic things. The releases, they had a lot of weird stuff going on with them. Like you said, Link's pea stain stand. Fox had a purple one for some reason. Wii Fit Trainer just had a cast. Villager had a couple of things right there I'm seeing.
Man, Villager I still think was iconic because I remember the Gen 1 Villager was this abomination. The face was all wrong.
Huge eyes.
And they later fixed it, but man, it was weird. Like that. So that was, I guess it was because those are the 3 least desired characters, but it was Marth, Wii Fit Trainer, and Villager. Those are the original rare 3. I remember the discussions. If you had those 3, those are the holy grails you secured early on. But Villager looked terrible.
There's a lot of weird designs with these original characters. Peach, in my opinion, looked more like a Polly Pocket doll. Donkey Kong just had this icicle growing out of his ass. And there's a lot of weird stuff with that, but the very cartoony characters looked very good. I think Mario looked great.
Yeah, Kirby looked great.
Yeah, Kirby, Pikachu.
Yoshi looks great.
Yeah, these are all good. And even like Fox, I thought, you had the purple stand. That's an inevitability. You're gonna have to expect some stands here and there, but Fox, I thought, was really good.
Yeah, there's going to be problems over time also because they didn't have enough support for some of them. Like Samus, you find a lot now where a lot of them are tilted because they weren't supported properly, so they're very top heavy. And that's very annoying. I know mine tilted without wanting it to.
I think there was like some fixes to fix the tilting, or like you'd have to heat it up kind of, or something along those lines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the swords from this original lineup, Link's and Marth's sword really start kind of going over time. They start kind of bending and they droop a lot. This was a bit of a ho-hum kind of wave in terms of quality because this was the first time Nintendo did this. Obviously there was going to be some growing pains.
Have you ever seen the video? It's just called Marf, like MARF.AVI or something. It's just the zoom in, slow zoom in on the ugly Gen 1 Marth face with the Fire Emblem theme played on recorder. Yeah. And I just regularly pull that out because it's hilarious, just how dumb it looks.
It's a mainstay. Marth was definitely probably the least good looking of all of them, but those 3 were going for insane prices at the time. After the amiibo craze fully started to go into effect, I think people were kind of like us, where we were like, we don't have to do this. But like you, I bought Mario, and then I went to like Target and I saw them on the shelf, and I was like, I'll get this one and this one and this one. And I passed on Wii Fit Trainer at first. That was one of the main 3 that I saw at Target. And by the time I was like, I gotta get Wii Fit Trainer, like gone, absolutely gone. And these things were going for like 60. Like how much do you remember them going for on eBay?
I want to say I used to see Villagers for like the triple digits, like for a brief moment before they started to recycle them. But yeah, for a little bit. Those were the pricey ones. It also did help whenever we went to stores. The casing I thought was really nice too.
Oh yeah.
That sort of single color like gradient with like the text on the back and the nice plastic where it was just presented there like this glorious thing. And they did that in Smash Wii U also. When you went to the trophy shop, you had like that box and the trophies were, so like there was the consistency there. Some people still have all their amiibo in boxes. It's a bit nuts with how much space they take up, but they look nice. They're always very appealing.
I have a couple that I bought sealed, and they were pretty much all doubles from like what I had. They were just like the ones that I was like, I kind of like these. Like they were kind of like my favorite character. I wanted to get like the big four from Smash Wii U. So you had Mario, Sonic, Mega Man, Pac-Man. So I have those all still sealed. And then there was just some that I really liked. Rob, the Famicom Rob, Little Mac, Captain Falcon, and Fox. Those are kind of the 8 from Smash Wii U that I still have sealed. Yeah. At first, I don't think Amiibo like lit the world on fire, but I think eventually people were like going like, oh my god, these 3 are rare. And, they were like, oh, well, I'll get this one and this one and this one. And it just all kind of snowpiled from there for a lot of people. And only a couple weeks later, Wave 2 hit with Zelda, Diddy Kong, Luigi, Little Mac, Pit, and Captain Falcon. And those final 3 were the big ones. It was always
plastic.
3.
Just the plastic sticking out of Captain Falcon's thigh.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then Luigi has, like, this weird, like, board holding him up. Diddy Kong had a piss stand too. Yeah. Zelda kind of had some weird stuff. Yeah. Pit looked okay.
Mac looks great.
Yeah.
Mac looks great. Mac's the best one of the bunch.
The shininess of his gloves were fantastic. Mm-hmm. It was the Wave 2 was when Wave 2 hit. This was when it was like, oh man, like these were really hard to find. Where you just go to the stores and you just see nothing but Zeldas, Diddy Kongs, and Luigis. That was about it. And then we hit Wave 3. Wave 3 was the biggest wave, but it was also the craziest wave in terms of finding these damn things. This was when store exclusives became a thing. This was when you had to go to specific stores to get specific figures. A lot of time they didn't make any sense. I think Rosalina was exclusive to Target. I think Lucario was Toys R Us. I'm looking at these. Shulk GameStop?
See, I don't remember the store exclusivity, but when you said store exclusivity and I'm looking at Amiibo, I just got shivers because I just remember that being so bad. It wasn't until I think one of the following waves where I was at a point in the collecting where I went to multiple stores on the same day and would see the same people because they really wanted everyone to just be stretched thin, and it wasn't as easy to just pre-order them. I forget when it was so that you could just be like, oh, there's a new one? I'm gonna just go on Best Buy and click pre-order and then it comes to my door. That's not what it was. No. It was a hell for most of them. You
pretty much had to go to these stores in the morning, like 6 in the morning something. I remember watching a lot of like vlogs and videos from people that were like, I'm waiting out for Amiibo. I never got to that point. I was just kind of like...
I did.
I like, may bless you, but god damn, that was like, because I was in high school at the time, so I was like in my last years of high school. I didn't really feel like, I had to go to school like 7:45, or that was when school started. I wasn't gonna either skip to show up to Toys R Us at like 9 a.m. or wake up even earlier to go to these stores. I just kind of went with the flow. So pretty much I would go to these stores at like 3 p.m. after school got out, and I would basically have to deal with the scraps. So I would have to go for the scraps. So I did get a fair amount of these, but unfortunately I ended up going for imports for a lot of these. I would buy imported versions on like Amazon for like $30. And that's how I got a lot of these rarer ones.
I did that for Meta Knight and D2D because I missed out on those. I got one from Japan, one from Europe because I just wasn't finding them in store shelves. See, like, yeah, once the collectors started getting in on it, and then they started releasing more obscure characters. I remember it was some jerk, and I don't remember how legitimate it was, that was posting pictures of him buying out like every Rosalina in a store and just show like the back of his car with a ton of Rosalina. And it was like, man, this is becoming something a little scary. So it like when collectors, as game collectors know, once the actual collectors, the financial people get into it, it just becomes this disgusting minefield. And Wave 3 is sort of where it started off. Yeah, because I got Sonic and Mega Man, like, oh, we got the 2 big third-party characters in here now, on top of niche characters and store exclusives.
Here's the thing. I am going to bring up an argument here and say, while this was very stressful, I kind of miss it because it made things kind of like, you remember going into a GameStop and seeing a Ness and just getting this like adrenaline rush of like,
oh my god, I found one.
If you found a rare amiibo in the wild, it felt incredible, and it was kind of this fun hunt kind
for
of thing,
sure.
where you could just buy them on Amazon imported, because Japan, it was pretty much like finding the North American versions was nearly impossible for a lot of these. You had the kind of the commons where Bowser from this wave, easy to find. I'm looking like Sonic became easier to find. Mega Man was a little iffier. Most of these were kind of, I think Sheik and Toon Link were easier to find.
Yeah, Toon Link was definitely with Toon Link was like a mid tier trying to find. Shulk, I remember being
Impossible.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they release how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 on the same day across multiple stores. Not many people who are casual like, yeah, I'll spend $150 on this plastic, and then hopefully get to my car without someone stopping me.
But it was very enjoyable. But Nintendo got a lot of flack from fans just because they were like, you need to produce more of these things, pretty much. I can't necessarily blame them for producing a low amount of Shulks. Like you think about it back in 2015, why are you going to produce more than a couple of Shulks at the end of the day? But I don't think they were expecting it to blow up as much of it as it did. But this was it was fun to me. It was stressful. It was stressful, and it was very deflating to go into a store and not see anything. Just see the standard figures that you always see, just there all the time. But overall, I think the hunt and just not having those rarer figures made Amiibo as popular as it did.
It still had like a really good new vibe too, because Nintendo doesn't very often release side things that are as successful, if not more so at the time, than the games themselves. Like e-reader never popped off that hard. There are some rare ones, but no one really cared. The Pokemon things, not really. Other merchandise, not really. Nintendo got this thing where it's a general Nintendo thing with a bunch of characters that could have used. I don't know people who I don't think I've ever actually met someone who was a hunter for the Amiibo and was also really into the usefulness in the games. It was always either or.
I think it was kind of because you launched with the Smash Brothers series, because there is a character everybody cares about from Smash Brothers. Even if you don't like Nintendo, even if you don't like Smash Brothers, whatever, there is one character in Smash Brothers you do care about, at the very least. And having that be the basis for the first lineup of Amiibo was kind of a double-edged sword, because that meant pretty much, I don't really think any other Amiibo lineup really met Smash Brothers in terms of popularity and overall craze. But it did kind of kickstart Amiibo with the best way to possibly kickstart it. With people like me, I love the fact that they were basically the trophies, and you could pretty much have that trophy horde in the games in real life. It was so cool.
I had a friend who had his complete in box and had all of them when the Wii U roster was done. Had them pinned up on his wall in the formation of the character select screen in that game. I'm like, oh, that is incredibly cool.
I will say my original lineup for Amiibo, if I line them up, if I organize them, I originally did it in a way that was the exact same as how Smash Bros. Ultimate's characters were numbered in terms of appearance in the series. And I feel like I'm this is to my own horn. I feel like I'm the only person that noticed this, where the characters were organized in the exact same way in the Smash Brothers for Wii U manual. They were organized in the exact same way of in order of appearance in the series. So I was like, I want to organize my characters like that. Now everybody knows that, so it's not as special. So I don't care. And I think the Smash Brothers series was also popular because there was a definitive end to the amount of figures. It wasn't like, this series is going to go on forever. I think I liked the Smash Brothers series and collecting for that, mainly because I knew it was not going to go on forever. There was a definitive end. It wasn't going to just, oh man, we're just going to keep on making these figures. No, there was a certain amount of characters in that game. It was going to end at some point. And I feel like coupling all of that, it was like the perfect storm. But they eventually, only about a month after the Smash Brothers line, Wave 3 of the Smash Brothers line, they tried something new with the Super Mario series of amiibo hitting its first wave. This launched alongside Mario Party 10.
Everyone's favorite.
Yeah. It was pretty much all just the same characters that we got, but in better designs, frankly, for figures. They were bigger. Their designs were better suited for figurines. But they weren't as cool just because they weren't the Smash Brothers versions, and they were just kind of like, here's some good sculpted Mario figures. But Toad was a part of that line, which was the first like major that was the only one that you couldn't really, get a Smash Brothers variant of. But later on, a couple weeks later, was kind of the next big thing for amiibo, and it was still a part of the series. It was a variant of the Mario amiibo. It was Gold Mario.
Mario.
This was the golden goose, if you will, of amiibo at the time. I'm not necessarily sure if this was that much rarer than some of the rarest amiibo in like Wave 3 or Wave 2 or something, but it was still pretty hard to get.
I don't even remember where you would find gold, because I got mine on eBay. I don't even remember where you would find. I want to say it was like a Walmart exclusive. Oh no, that was Silver Mario. I think that was Silver Mario was exclusive.
No, Silver Mario was readily available.
Okay.
Like everything, that was all over the place. Gold Mario, I believe, was Walmart exclusive. I think that is true. And Nintendo never really advertised Gold Mario. It just kind of came out. It just kind of happened. Like, I remember people posting pictures of like in-store displays at Walmart saying like showing a Gold Mario. Yeah,
that just added more to the insanity of it all. Like there are additional ones just showing up.
To be fair, I think if any amiibo deserves to be rare, it's like this one. Yeah. It's just like it's a gold variant, and if you get annoyed at Nintendo for making that in limited quantities, I'm like it's a gold variant of an amiibo. The rarity made this enticing to people, but it was the same thing people were like annoyed beyond doubt about amiibo. But yeah, the Mario amiibo came out. Mario was originally exclusive to a Mario Party 10 bundle.
That's right.
Like you would get that way. So they got him there.
Well, see, that's when they started to dabble in. Can we get people to buy whole games? Because clearly the amiibo craze is crazy. Can we get people to buy whole games just for the amiibo?
They went even crazier with that later on in the year.
Yeah.
We'll get into that, but I believe the next one was Wave 4 for Smash Brothers, which also included a couple others. I think that's where Silver Mario made his appearance.
Mm-hmm. Looks like the same date.
Yeah, and the Splatoon amiibo, which was pretty cool to see a new IP from Nintendo. It's wild how much faith Nintendo had in Splatoon at that time, where they were willing to do all this stuff for Splatoon. Pre-order bonuses, amiibo, just all of this stuff. They even had like a system bundle at launch, all of that, where they were really going hard into Splatoon, and it paid off, which kind of shows to me that they should be have a lot more faith in their new IPs, because when they don't, Splatoon was kind of like, it was destined to kind of succeed with just being, this was like a Nintendo EAD/EPD developed series. You had cool character designs, and then it was a shooter. Nintendo did multiplayer. Multiplayer done by Nintendo always does pretty well, so it's just like,
And the amiibo were also like a higher quality, so it had more people just looking at it, like seeing like the bases, like the Mario bases were cool because they were just, it's the same but red. The Splatoon ones are like, that's the black base, but there's like ink on it, and it's like this shiny different plastic that's just popping everywhere. Like, yeah, that it just added more credibility to everyone who was looking at amiibo at the time.
I think the interesting thing was that this was kind of during the Smash Brothers DLC speculation wave, and just the fact that Nintendo showed off these Splatoon amiibo with a black base. It looked very similar to the Smash Brothers one, and I remember there being speculation. They're like, oh my god, like, what is this? This is the Smash Brothers. It could be the Smash Brothers amiibo and all that. And to be fair, I was kind of speculating Inkling would be in Smash Brothers. They ended up getting like a pre-order bonus Mii Fighter costume. I remember I pre-ordered at GameStop to get the Mii Fighter costume for Smash Brothers for Inklings. But yeah, the Splatoon amiibo came out this day. But they did an interesting lineup where you got the Inkling boy and girl separately, but you could get the 3-pack. That was the only way to get the Squid amiibo. And it kind of stunk because the Squid amiibo was kind of the most useful one in game. Like they gave you like these set of challenges.
Yeah, and costumes too, I think. I remember you got like the costumes out of it, I think. It's been a minute, but yeah, definitely challenges for all of them. And I think you would get a mini game, like one of the 8-bit mini games that were playable.
I at the very least think the squid gave you something more lucrative than the boy and girl.
It sounds believable, yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that. But alongside all of that, you got Wave 4.
This was when everyone knew, like, oh, this is definitely hitting a different plane of existence now.
Yeah, Ness was GameStop, and Ness crashed the GameStop website. I do remember that. And you had Rob and Lucina. I don't think either one of those were exclusive.
A lot of the exclusivity escapes me. It was definitely always one of them was GameStop, Target.
Jigglypuff was Target. Greninja was Toys R Us. Ness was GameStop. I don't think Charizard was exclusive. Pac-Man wasn't. Wario wasn't.
I remember the exclusivity being just a means to get characters that are otherwise unappealing, just to get more of them out there, because the exclusivity just makes it seem all that more scarce. We can't have what's going to happen to Villager happen again.
But I think like around this time, this was kind of like peak Amiibo. Wave 3 and Wave 4 were like peak, like this is rough. This is rough. I did find a Ness at a GameStop. It was like sometime in the summer. I did find him at a GameStop, and that was one of my proudest moments. I found like one of them. I was very proud of that. Like just walked in, saw him, picked him up. It was amazing. I think around this time, like I showed up to these stores after school let out. I could only get like Wario, Pac-Man, maybe Charizard, obviously the Fire Emblem, any Fire Emblem amiibo. You weren't getting those on day one. Then weirdly enough, a couple more came out later down the line. These were 2 of the Kid Icarus characters.
Yeah, only 2. It's so strange.
Middle of the summer, Palutena and Dark Pit. I believe Palutena was Amazon, and Dark Pit was I think Best Buy or something like that. But these were 2 exclusive amiibo. Then in the fall of 2015, we got to a bit of like the bit of an odd era for amiibo, because this was when they were going hard with everything, not just Smash Brothers. Lots of different series got amiibo. This was around September. This launched the same day as like Mario Maker. And we got the Mario Maker amiibo, which was one of the coolest ones so far. It was, the 8-bit Mario coming out of a pipe. Yeah, it's.
I brought some props.
I think the amiibo is so cool because from any angle it works. And it works even though it's based off of a sprite that you only saw from one single angle. I thought that was super cool. But we only got the retro colored Mario. This was a part of the thing you were talking about. Nintendo was trying to see if they could get amiibo to sell full games. They tried to sell an entire system with amiibo. They made.
I can't believe it.
They made the Modern Color Retro Mario 30th Anniversary Mario amiibo exclusive to a Wii U bundle. Which was a Mario Maker bundle, and it came with amiibo. There was a little cutout for amiibo there. And I remember seeing some people do this crafty little tactic where they'd buy that bundle, they'd take the amiibo out, and they'd replace it with like Donkey Kong, and they'd just return it. And the person, I think that bundle was exclusive to Walmart. And the person that, Walmart has this thing, I don't know if they still have it, but they used to. They probably still have it, where you don't even need a receipt. You can just like, bring it there and then be like, hey, I bought this here.
A crazy test to put on collectors, though, because, my God. Yeah, the game released with one, the console released with another one, and some people had to buy both.
Did not work on a large-scale basis, though. Did not, only a couple people probably did that. More Smash Brothers stuff came out in September, and weirdly enough, this was an easier-to-get lineup. I remember being able to walk away. I remember taking a picture of my haul that day because it was pretty impressive. It was a ton of different amiibo. It was insane to me how I bought all of these amiibo, and I did not have that much disposable income. I was working off of like a minimum wage job. I didn't have that much, and I was wasting all my money on these amiibo that I didn't need when I could be spending them on like other games games that I would play more or whatever. But hey, I bought, there's Zero Suit Samus, Ganondorf, Dr. Mario, Bowser Jr., Olimar. all on the same day.
This was the one time I stayed out in front of a store to get amiibo. Because I did not want to I stayed out in front of a Toys R Us, and I did not want to miss out on... I got 3. It was Dr. Mario, Olimar, and I think Bowser Jr. was exclusive to Toys R Us.
Bowser Jr. was exclusive to Toys R Us. Dr. Mario, Target. I'm not sure about Zero Suit, Ganondorf, and Olimar.
Okay, so it was at least Bowser Jr., where I remember I was in line. I didn't stay overnight, but it was like 2 hours before the store opened. Big line of people. They handed papers to everyone of just which amiibo they wanted to get that day so they can prepare inside the store. So I wrote down which one I wanted, made the purchase when the store opened, and then immediately drove to Best Buy to I think get the Zero Suit, which I didn't see at Toys R Us. And some of the same people who I was waiting in line with, I saw go immediately to that store as well, and went immediately to the amiibo line. It was crazy. We all went to the GameStop right after too, because the Game & Watch Rob Duck Hunt dog was GameStop exclusive, that 3-pack. And that was a wild day where I couldn't believe I was doing it, but I wanted the amiibo. That was the fun of the hunt.
I'm trying to see. I bought everything. I took a picture of it. I remember it on my phone. Yeah, I got them all, I think. I got them all on the first day. Nice. Ganondorf, Zero Suit, Olimar, Dr. Mario, and Bowser Jr. I'm very happy with that. Yeah, this was when Nintendo was starting to get their stock stuff more in check. So I'm very sorry that this was the day that you woke up early. It
was still fun. No, it was still fun though.
And that was when I was able to get the Splatoon 3-pack. Those got restocked that day. And the Retro 3-pack, I remember getting those alongside Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer, which launched around that same time. I got that game with the 3DS Puck, which you showed off, which made the 3DS, the original 3DS compatible, because the new 3DS XL launched earlier that year in like February, and that was compatible with Amiibo right out of the box. But the Happy Home Designer launched with that Puck reader. And alongside that came the Happy Home Designer cards, and you told me you weren't big into the cards.
It got to be too much. I'm not a card collector. The appeal of opening up a card pack and not knowing what you're gonna get didn't appeal to me in the same way of, this is the one thing plastic in a box that I need, and I'm just gonna buy it. When you start buying individual cards that you want, it gets even more expensive, and I that part just didn't seem super exciting. Do I regret it? A little. Because as you have complete binders, those look really cool. But I gave up quick, and I didn't buy a single card. Yeah, that's still cool.
I'll show this off to the camera. This was this didn't release in America. This binder didn't release in America. In North America, we got kind of like a generic looking Happy Home Designer amiibo card binder. And this one is European, and it's a really nice one because it has space for every single card, and it has little outlines for like where that character should be. So what I really like is that it kind of encourages you to organize them chronologically, which I really like. And these binders are crazy expensive now. Where like these are going for like $100+ on eBay, because these cards, while they were cool, there wasn't much use for them initially, because they were only worked with Happy Home Designer and eventually Amiibo Festival, which came out later. And Animal Crossing was very popular. However, it appealed to Animal Crossing fans. I don't think a lot of Amiibo collectors really jumped on the Animal Crossing train when it came to the Animal Crossing Amiibo releasing, which we'll get to in a bit. GameStop had the retro characters all in a 3-pack. So yeah, Game & Watch, Rob, Duck Hunt. Game & Watch was cool because you could swap out the things. Yeah.
I pulled out some of my favorites from the shelf. I always thought this was so cool. I mean, realistically, I don't know what else they could have done with this, but I just remember when they announced it, everyone's like, oh my god, he's flat! Like, I don't know what else they could have done, but that validation was really nice. And god, getting an official Duck Hunt dog figure is still just absurd to think about.
I love the Rob one, just the fact that, he was kind of originally Nintendo's toy. with the NES, and the fact that they kind of re-released Rob, but in a miniature form, and it was very true to how Rob looked, but tiny. I thought was really, really cool. And technically speaking, the Rob amiibo kind of fulfilled that destiny of what Rob was originally supposed to do. In Smash Brothers, he's supposed to be kind of like a robotic friend to play with, and you play him and he's a CPU, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah, the cards, they released a ton of them. Series, there was like 4 series originally for Animal Crossing, and I don't think they blew up really that much because they launched kind of with a subpar game. Happy Home Designer is okay.
It's okay,
but it's not a regular Animal Crossing game, and I think that was kind of the main problem. Where Smash Brothers launched, the Smash Brothers line launched with a really good game. The Mario Maker amiibo launched with a really good game. Splatoon amiibo, same thing. Animal Crossing was popular, but there just wasn't that drive to really get them for a lot of people, I think.
No, for sure. I think the card collectors were really getting into it, but I just remember once it seemed like it was going to be too late to get into the trend at a reasonable price, I was like, I had to tap out immediately. They kept releasing waves, and I was like, I can't do it, because if I get into this, it's just going to be a disgusting hellscape on top of the plastic I'm already spending money on. They look really cool, though, I think, when they're complete. That's the thing, is I think amiibo look good on their own. A singular card doesn't. So I feel like when you have a complete set, that makes it worth it. But it just became too expensive.
But October did bring a lot of really cool amiibo along with it, specifically the Yarn Yoshi amiibo, which were outstanding.
Yeah.
Those are some of the best amiibo of all time. Just the fact that I think it shocked everybody to see, like, whoa, these aren't even figures. Like, and I wish they did more stuff like this, because this was the only time they did like kind of plush, kind of amiibo kind of style things. And I wish they did more stuff like this, because they were so cool. They were so cute. They were the perfect idea for that game. The implementation wasn't like that insane with Woolly World. It was literally just, you get double Yoshis.
I mean, I think amiibo usage. So the Yarn Yoshis were just, they looked cool in the game. They were whatever, but I would argue that Woolly World has some of the best implementation of amiibo in general. Oh,
yeah, which I think maybe we can like end this on just the amiibo implementation in general, because we've been going so hard on the figures.
Yeah. That's the thing, is the implementation to me was always like the secondary thing, where like Nintendo would outwardly say like, hey, we're making these more useful. But in the back of my head, I'm like, who cares? Just make these cool pieces of plastic.
I loved these amiibo though. I thought they were fantastic. But alongside them, also in October, we got Chibi Robo Ziplash with the Chibi Robo amiibo. The amiibo was great. The game is the worst goddamn thing I've ever played in my life. I hate this damn game. The amiibo is cool. Wow. I like that the plug is too fat to fit into an outlet.
Thank God. Jeez, I remember just so many people worried about, please, for the love of God, do not stick it into an outlet.
Yeah, but it's too big to do that. They thought that through. It was only exclusive to that, and then they made the amiibo exclusive to like Amazon by itself. But this was kind of another way of like them trying to sell a game with an amiibo. I doubt that they made this game specifically just to sell an amiibo, but it kind of feels like
it's definitely on the back of their mind.
Good.
Yeah,
the game was not good, and I think they were hoping that the amiibo would kind of revitalize Chibi Robo, kind of make Chibi Robo popular, because this was kind of the first time that they made an amiibo for a character not in Smash Brothers, outside of like the Splatoon series, where that character was not really popular. So this was kind of a way to be like, hey, let's see if this will make this character more popular if we make an amiibo of them. Didn't happen. I'm sure a lot of amiibo collectors did buy Ziplash just for the amiibo, but yeah, it was not a great one. But hey, it's cool. It was cool to get a Chibi Robo figure. It was a good figure.
Because it was shiny. Doesn't he look like he's sitting on grass or something? He is.
Yeah.
God, that's a good looking figure.
It's very, very nice, and yeah, it's just the fact that it was kind of like a true to size Chibi Robo. I thought that was really, really cool. But Nintendo didn't have a lot going on that holiday in 2015. That was the year of we got Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, and Devil's Third.
One could say 3DS, that this was the dark age of Nintendo, I guess.
One could say that.
One could say that.
But Devil's Third can be kind of fun. Devil's Third can be kind of fun. It's not good, but it can be kind of fun sometimes.
Yeah, where's my Ivan Amiibo, Nintendo? Come on.
Oh, God, I wish. That would have been amazing. To be fair, pretty much most of Nintendo's first-party games had Amiibo support at this time. But one game didn't, and I thought this was so strange. It was Triforce Heroes. That game would have been prime for Amiibo support because the entire game revolves around Link wearing different costumes, and they aren't necessarily like, oh, these have to be super canon. There's like a retro looking one where it's like Link looks kind of like he's out of Minecraft. Like they could have very easily done like, oh, you scan the Mario Amiibo, you get a Mario hat. They've already had like Mario references in Zelda before with Majora's Mask, and then you have this stuff like that. So it's just like, why does it matter? This is like such a weird offshoot kind of multiplayer Zelda game. I think it would have been perfect to have Amiibo support in that game. Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival released, and along with it, a couple of Amiibo, a lot of Amiibo in fact, a lot of Animal Crossing Amiibo. These Amiibo always kind of disappointed me, not just because the game is dreadful, but they're all very boring designs.
They're all like basically T-posing, essentially.
Yeah, which is just like the quality was fine, but it's just not very interesting designs, and this was kind of what killed a lot of hype around Amiibo. These figures had no use in their game. They only really worked with Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, and even then, Amiibo Festival uses the cards more. So the cards were a better investment, really, because the figures only really worked in the board game mode of Amiibo Festival. And these figures were so overproduced. And this was also around the time that Nintendo started actually reprinting a lot of Amiibo. I remember going to a Toys R Us, and it was flooded with Shulks. They finally got the stock thing figured out, but they got it figured out a little too much. And I think it was like, it was originally very bad at the beginning of the year, where like you couldn't find a damn Amiibo to save your life. But then later on, like there were too many of these things.
Yeah, I mean, around the same time, I think Falco released. And God, I just remember just walls of Falco. Like before, it would be like any Amiibo would be hard to find now, but no, you were just finding them left and right. And then speaking of like the Animal Crossing ones, it didn't take long for these to show up in like Five Below's.
Five Below is a fun store that is so they pretty much take the table scraps from like Walmart, pretty much like they'll buy out like clearance bins or something, or pretty much like the surpluses of other stores, and they'll just sell them there for like $5. Mm-hmm. And Animal Crossing Amiibo were all over that place, which was a bit disappointing. It was a bit disappointing to see. It was kind of like, oh man,
it's weird because you would think with Animal Crossing, like there was enough buzz after New Leaf, and I can see their reasoning to think that, oh man, people are gonna go crazy for all these characters. But man, like I don't know if they were to release it alongside a proper console game, if it would have had the same effect. Because like all the big ones here are like the actual characters, not the villagers. I think if they started going into the villagers, it would have just started becoming way too much because there are hundreds of those. And what usefulness can you hide behind a Blathers?
Yeah.
It just didn't end up making a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's just the thing. Because, we all love a lot of the NPCs, but like the villagers are what you really get passionate about. Because everybody has their favorite. The NPCs in Animal Crossing, everybody knows about, and like everybody likes Tom Nook and Isabelle and all of that, but you get like the thing with Animal Crossing, you get really passionate about those villagers. You're like, oh, I love Rold. I love this character. I love that character. I hate this character. I hate that character. It's all about that with Animal Crossing. So I think they did it in the best way with the cards. I think the figures were kind of a step too far. Not saying that they shouldn't have done it, but I think it would have worked a lot better if they had better implementation in, say, an actual Animal Crossing game. If they had an actual Animal Crossing for Wii U, because that's what everybody was expecting around this time. But they were like, let's just do some spin-offs this year, kind of to get these out in time for like Amiibo, because 2 Animal Crossing games released this year and they were very focused on Amiibo, and they were kind of worse off because of it. And Happy Home Designer wasn't really worse off because of it, but you know what I'm saying.
Didn't need it. Yeah, it
didn't need it, and it kind of felt like the game was only really done to push amiibo. You know.
Do you know that was exactly what in interviews? That's
they
what
were just
said.
like, we just want an Animal Crossing amiibo.
We want to make Animal Crossing amiibo, and figured a game would be the best way to justify it. And they said that during the Treehouse Live show for Amiibo Festival, and I can't believe they were allowed to say that.
They said a lot of weird stuff with Amiibo Fest. There was originally this rumor that the game was going to be free. It was going to be a free download, but that never happened, which would have made the game feel a lot more justified. But yeah, this was a bit of a rough holiday season for Nintendo. You had Mario Maker and whatnot, but even on the 3DS side of things, like the main November title for them was they did Yokai Watch, which they were hoping was going to be big, and it did okay enough. But they had like Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon, that was kind of their big thing that year. But they also did the Mega Yarn Yoshi, which was cool.
Yeah,
that was exclusive to Toys R Us, and that they announced that kind of when they announced like the Star Fox Zero delay. I think that was kind of their way of being like, let's get this out. But yeah, that was pretty much in 2015, and that was when you kind of started to see this decline in Amiibo.
Yeah, but I wanted to say also, it's not official product, but I remember around this time is when the fans started to really get creative with how Amiibo were displayed. I remember, I don't think Etsy was a thing, I don't remember at the time, but I still remember seeing a bunch of people making custom displays. If you had the Animal Crossing one here, I made a custom Animal Crossing themed display that you can attach with it to make them look all nice and pretty. People would make villager, because when it came to the cards, people would take the NFC chip, put it into a custom base, and then make their own figure of any amiibo you can think of. The fans were able to pick up some of the slack that Nintendo wasn't providing. I remember people were printing additional bases for Game & Watch, because when you bought this, it was one base, 4 different slots. It's that's, I guess 3 of them are just going to sit there,
Or you could buy 3 retro 3-packs and just use all those bases.
Yeah, so around this time, fans were really getting into it. There was a lot of merchandise. People were starting to display them a lot in a lot more unique ways. So yeah, the things were definitely starting to decline, I think for the better. But it was starting to become a really cool mainstay in a lot of Nintendo fans' households at the time.
Yeah, well, they eventually kind of started doing a bit of a couple of cooler things with Amiibo display stuff in 2016. But before I forget, Skylanders, the Skylanders Amiibo in 2015. Those released hideous designs. The Skylanders had a different kind of process to how they looked compared to Amiibo. And it might have been art style, but these just didn't feel as high quality as Amiibo, but it was still pretty cool. I thought it was still pretty cool that they did such a thing.
The base thing was cool, where it could be a Skylander and an Amiibo of that character. I thought, that's really neat.
But they picked characters that were so easy to find already.
Yeah.
You already had Donkey Kong and Bowser, some of the easiest ones to find. So it's just it's cool that they're also Amiibo, but it's also it was very easy to find Donkey Kong and Bowser amiibos, but they
can't figure about dark Donkey Kong and dark Bowser.
It's dark turbocharged
Donkey Kong.
Get it
and
right.
Dark Hammer Slam Bowser.
Jesus, they aren't really Donkey Kong and Bowser. It's Hammer Slam Bowser. Yeah. But yeah, there was definitely some. I think it was starting to get a little oversaturated, because I think a lot of amiibo collectors, including yourself, because you don't have these, it's probably an idea where it's just even if you're a completionist, you're do I want to get these? Because these count?
I would see the starter packs for Superchargers in stores, and there's here is a brand new Superchargers for $5 sealed, and I was nah, I'm good on that one. Thank you though.
Yeah, I considered it. I had to buy them for my Toys to Life episode, and they're fine. I didn't really like it. It was easy to mess it up and move the base when you didn't want to. I kind of wish it kind of clicked into place. 2015 had a lot of this stuff, and 2016 was kind of more of the same more of the same kind of coming out. They continue with the Animal Crossing line. You can definitely tell they were definitely hoping for this to be like the next Smash Brothers, where we're doing Wave 2 of Animal Crossing, we're doing Wave 3 of Animal Crossing, where it made no sense because it was literally like, yeah, but this is for Amiibo Festival. Like, why? Like, I don't care, I don't care. They were starting to finish up the Smash Brothers series, and they were trying to do a couple of extra little things where, you got the Smash Brothers DLC characters here and there. They did something where the first Pokemon amiibo was included within Pokken Tournament on Wii U. You get the Shadow Mewtwo card with that game, which is very odd that they barely did anything Pokemon related with amiibo outside of Smash Brothers and a couple of little options. They went hard with e-reader support with Pokemon. Pokemon cards came with e-reader dots that you could scan. So it's very weird to me. And that was more so during the time that like Pokemon Company was more so a Nintendo thing. Then they kind of spun Pokemon Company off as its own thing, and Nintendo still owns a stake in it, but it's probably harder for them to do something like this now. That seemed like a series kind of like Animal Crossing where like this would have been perfect for Amiibo. Especially in 2016, because 2016 was when Pokemon became even bigger than it ever was before, where it became even more mainstream with Pokemon Go, and then you had Pokemon Sun and Moon coming out, and even Pokken Tournament.
I remember that they seemed like they were just strict with their usefulness, because we'll talk about implementation later, but I remember the Pokemon Amiibo's usefulness in like Mario Maker was like truncated compared to everyone else. Like I think they didn't have all the same flourish that a lot of the other characters had. I remember also being upset about the Shadow Mewtwo card, and I imagine I can talk about this. I don't know. This was around the same time I was a Nintendo ambassador, and I was able to get some of the games from Nintendo, and they sent me Pokken Tournament a code at the time, and I remember emailing them. I'm like, that's cool. Can you send me the card though? And they said no. So I've just never been able to find one ever since. I don't know if it's expensive now, but
I got mine at launch. It was available with first print copies of the game, so it was available for a little bit, and you can probably find it. But I'm not sure how genuinely expensive it is, but I think the only place it ever worked was Pokken Tournament, which was very odd because the only thing you could do with it was just immediately unlock Shadow Mewtwo in that game. You didn't need the amiibo card, right?
You could, I think if you beat the full campaign, it was the final boss, and then you would unlock it. Yeah,
so it was just kind of odd. It's just kind of odd to include that in like the first print editions where it's just like, I'm not going to play this game, boom, and
right.
But also around that time, Wolf Link launched. That was the first Zelda series amiibo. Very good looking amiibo, but very odd that it was the first Zelda series one, because Zelda got quite a few amiibo later on. And this was the first one. It launched with Twilight Princess HD. It was bundled with Twilight Princess HD. The only way you get this amiibo is with Twilight Princess HD. And the only way you get Twilight Princess HD is with this amiibo. Physically, that is. And this unlocked, like, the Cave of Shadows, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, this also carried over to Breath of the Wild, originally called Zelda Wii U at the time. So they were doing quite a lot with amiibo. Also around 2016, they did the Kirby lineup. They did the Kirby series, and alongside Kirby, what I was talking about, they had the dioramas in Japan.
Yes. Oh, I forgot to bring it out. I do have the Kirby diorama. There was a Splatoon one also,
and a Smash Brothers one.
I only bought the. Was there? Okay.
There was a Smash Brothers one on like Battlefield. It was like supposed to be on.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, those were Japan exclusives, so you had to import those.
Yeah, and very similar to the Mario series, all of these characters were available via the Smash Brothers one, but you also got Waddle Dee on a thing of clouds. Yeah.
That's right.
The DDD amiibo always look kind of weird to me.
It does.
His design always gets changed. It's very weird.
Yeah, I was going to say, that goes into a deeper thing about how they just keep subtly changing his face, and it's very weird, because his, like, it looks very smushed in. It doesn't look like how he looks in any of the games.
Also around this time, this was, like, earlier in the year, but there were rumors rumbling of a Shovel Knight amiibo. There was, like, all these leaks. And that was kind of adding to this credibility. People were like, Shovel Knight is going to be a DLC character in Smash Brothers. And no, it was done by Yacht Club. Yacht Club just got the amiibo license. They were like, let's make a Shovel Knight amiibo, which is really cool. This was the first third-party licensed amiibo. So this was something where it's similar to how games are, where it's just like, yeah, a third party can release a Nintendo game, like a licensed Wii U game or something, but it's not published by Nintendo or anything. And amiibo were the same thing, where all the amiibo released up to that point were published by Nintendo, outside of like the Skylanders, but those are a separate thing. But this one, like, you look at the amiibo packaging, it doesn't say Nintendo amiibo, it says licensed by Nintendo amiibo.
This was the equivalent of like Cloud showing up in Smash, where it was like, oh no, now what's gonna happen? How many third-party characters are gonna enter the fray?
It was very odd. I think people were expecting this to mean something, but it was just kind of, Yacht Club was just kind of like, we just wanted to do this, which is really cool. It was very obvious to me. I think this amiibo is awesome, but it's very obvious to me this was done not in like a Nintendo factory kind of thing. The material of this character felt a lot more like kind of like a Disney Infinity figure or like a Skylanders figure, which I think there was like some news article saying like this was made in the same factory as like those. I'm not sure. Still a very nice amiibo though. And they actually did a thing where the amiibo always came with like the little blocker where you can't scan them in the package. But Yacht Club was like, no, we're not doing that. And that amiibo you can keep in the box and it will scan. Because they're like, we want to make this good for collectors and stuff, which is
good on them.
Which is very cool. Throughout 2016 was kind of the one of the worst years of Nintendo's history.
Just a little bit.
There wasn't anything. There was nothing. It was pretty much just ports, remakes or ports, side game spin-offs, whatever, on 3DS and Wii U.
That was when we started to soon know about the NX, so then everyone just gave up. Everyone was willing to wait at that point.
You had like Metroid Prime Federation Force. You had Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. You had Paper Mario Color Splash, which I like Color Splash, but you can throw it in this as like kind of a iffy year. It was mostly kind of a build up to Pokemon Sun and Moon for most people.
For sure.
I think.
Yeah.
And also just waiting for the NX to get revealed, because every single time there was like...
They couldn't do anything else. There was just people begging for the NX, so they just realized, okay, we'll just rest on our laurels. Yeah. Do what we can. There's a couple amiibo that dropped.
Yeah.
But man, that's surprising. That says only 4 Smash amiibo dropped that year.
Yeah. This was also like, people were like wondering where the Cloud, Corn, and Bayonetta amiibos were. Or I'm sorry, amiibo. It was.
Swear to God. I swear to God.
It was those just nobody knew. Nobody knew where those were. You got like more Mario series amiibo out of nowhere, with Mario Party Star Rush. Weirdly enough, they were like, yeah, let's do more Mario amiibo. Cool thing was the Boo amiibo was glow in the dark.
It's that one's really cool.
Pretty neat.
One thing that's upsetting with the Mario lineup is in Mario Party 10 in the amiibo party mode. All the figures were based off of what the amiibo would look like. So, like, when Wave 2 came around and Mario Party 10 was long old, the figures still looked exactly the same. So they had those designs ready to go. They never released the Bowser Jr. Mario amiibo. You could see what the design's going to be in Mario Party 10, but they just never turned it into plastic.
To be fair, there's always hope. There's always hope, because in 2017 we got more Mario amiibo out of nowhere, but, it's just like... There's just a bunch of stuff that is just like, hey, at any moment, at a moment's notice, Nintendo can just be like, hey, we're doing more Mario amiibo. Like, it just happens. Because, like, I thought the Mario series was just like, this is over. But, like, a year and a half after they had the last, like, Mario series amiibo, they released more, and they released a ton. And these were also very good-looking amiibo. Wario, Waluigi, Rosalina, Daisy, Boo, Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong.
The DK and Diddy look great.
But since 2016 was a bit of a lesser year, they also did, like, Splatoon amiibo. They did Callie and Marie, and they did recolors.
The recolors are so... That was another one of those tests. Like, can we get amiibo collectors to legitimately buy the same exact amiibo again, just slightly different color? And I did, and god damn it, I did.
I mean, what do you prefer, recolors or original?
Oh god, I'm so like the original ones were how they were always branded: blue for the boy, orange for the girl. And I know in the games you could change them that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the orange squid, it's like, no. The orange squid looks weird.
Yeah, but 2016 ended with more Zelda amiibo for the 30th anniversary, I'm sorry. Yeah, just a bunch of Links and Zelda. I bought the 8-bit Link. That's what I bought.
Oh, of course. I wanted them to do so many more characters 8-bit. Like, because they managed to nail like those perfectly. They managed to make a Link sprite with the nose, and it looked right. I didn't think that was possible, but it looked so good.
It's very cool because, like we said, like at any angle, like you can put it off to the side, and it looks exactly how Link does when he's moving to the side in like Zelda on NES. And then front, it looks perfect. Back, it looks perfect. It's just this like, there must be so much work that goes into just making sure this character looks correctly at any angle, and I think it's brilliant. Of course, the problem with the Zelda series, I think, is that is in the Amiibo series, is that nothing but Links pretty much. You had Toon Zelda, but that was about it. And it was pretty much just nothing but Links, just a bunch of different Links. Cool Amiibo. I think the Wind Waker ones looked great. Ocarina of Time one, it looks okay. But
yeah, it was neat, like the idea, and they would do it later on. But the idea of making one of every single style of Link, because we got Majora, Skyward, that was later on. Neat idea, but man, there was so much potential they could pull. It's like there's no Ganon. Yeah. You would think Pig Ganon would show up at some point or something like that.
Yeah,
but
nope. It's ridiculous, but. 2016 was a bit of a lower year for Amiibo, but then they went above and beyond in 2017. Launched with Breath of the Wild, a ton of different Amiibo, and I think this is where a lot of people kind of got back into Amiibo because Breath of the Wild was such an amazing game, and people were so into it that these Amiibo brought in so much like random functionality that they were like, oh well, I want to get this Amiibo, I want to get this, and blah 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 blah. The Guardian Amiibo was so huge. That was
so cool.
Has these adjustable legs and all of that. Really crazy.
And they released 2 Links.
Yeah. 2 Links, 1 Zelda. And then later on in 2017, they did more Links. They did 3 more Links. They kind of finished off the major different Links out there. You had Majora's Mask, Skyward Sword, and Twilight Princess. They announced later on that the champions from Breath of the Wild would be getting Amiibo.
Very, very excited about that. The first ever 4-pack.
Yeah, they had a 4-pack. You could also buy them all separately, but those were available later on in the holiday season to kind of coincide with the DLC pack that would release called the Champions Ballad. More Mario series Amiibo that launched alongside Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions. That was the Koopa Troopa and Goomba.
Thank you for saying the entire title of the game. That's important.
Yeah, it kind of comes off the top of my head. It comes naturally. Yeah, and they released those, and then they did Mario Odyssey flavored Amiibo, which those were also ones where those potentially you got a lot of in-game functionality out of those. Where if you use the Bowser Amiibo, I think the purple coins go on your map or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, which that could be handy because some of those purple coins were really hard to find.
I mean, this is definitely where Nintendo is getting into the groove of if we have a big game, we can release 1 or 2. We can release Amiibo alongside it, and it'll sell more if it's specific. Like when it came to Animal Crossing, it was just a generic Animal Crossing figure with a game. Here with Odyssey, we have specific Odyssey Amiibo. If we have Twilight Princess, there's a specific Wolf Link Amiibo. Breath of the Wild, specific Breath of the Wild Amiibo. And yeah, it started to really pick up again. Was not insane anymore to get them. You could just go and buy them. Thank God.
They were still a little hard to find, but if you wanted them and you kind of you put your mind to it, you could get them. But it wasn't like trying to find Rosalina in early 2015. It wasn't like that anymore. And like you said, I'm seeing you got the Metroid Amiibo, you got the Metroid 2-pack. Launching alongside Metroid Samus.
Yeah, it's another one. Yeah, it's another one I brought in because it's
the squishy Metroid. Squishy. Yeah, which I think the Metroid that was where things get a little controversial with how they unlock content. Where those Amiibo unlocked kind of like content that people really wanted in the game, just buying it outright. But we'll get to some more in-game stuff. But they did Fire Emblem. They did 2 Amiibo, Almond Celica, alongside Echoes.
That was so cool, dude. I remember that was insane because the fact that they were remaking a random Fire Emblem game plus the 2 main characters are getting figures like that came with the resurgence of Fire Emblem hype also. So I remember just everyone being like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, 2017 was a big year for Fire Emblem. With you had the Fire Emblem Direct at the start of the year. You had Heroes, and then you had Echoes, and then you had Warriors, and they even announced that a Fire Emblem game was coming to Switch, which was 3 Houses. There's a ton of stuff. And that wasn't even the only Fire Emblem amiibo that came out in 2017. They also had Chrom and Tiki come out alongside Fire Emblem Warriors later on in the year. Early 2017, I see this is when this happened. The QB amiibo.
Yay!
Yeah, which is quite possibly the rarest amiibo, right? Would you say? Which is the more expensive, the most expensive one?
I think because of how you would get it, it was only purchasable if you bought the Box Boy trilogy, whatever it was called in Japan. It came in that box. You couldn't buy it separately. I'm pretty positive. I think when it comes to individual amiibo, I do kind of want to say this one is the most expensive. The 2-player Corrin. For whatever reason, this one jumped up in price ridiculously. But I think otherwise, yeah, the QB one. This one is insane.
Yeah, which those launched. The Smash Brothers Chrom, Corn, and Bayonetta finally released this year, and they did a weird thing where they had Player 2 variants, where they had their alts available, which they didn't really do for any other character outside of Rob. Rob had his Famicom variant release here in North America, which was cool. It was odd because the Retro 3-pack was exclusive to GameStop, but the Famicom Rob was everywhere. And there was also Gold Mega Man. I forgot to mention Gold Mega Man in the Mega Man Legacy Collection.
How could you forget about Gold Mega Man?
I have Gold Mega Man. I have him. I bought him. I think he's kind of up there now in terms of expensive.
Yeah, I got lucky. It was someone on eBay was I caught him slipping because they sold the loose Gold Mario, Silver Mario, and Silver Mega Man or Gold Mega Man for like $45.
Yeah.
They just didn't realize what they were doing, and I said, absolutely, yes, please.
Gold Mega Man was kind of lame because in the box he just had a white.
Just white.
Just a white package.
Just a pure white box.
And but yeah, they got me. I wanted it. I wanted it because I was also like, does this count as a part of the Smash Brothers line? Because it was just the Smash Brothers Mega Man amiibo. It was just that.
Yeah, just spray painted.
Yeah. Because I was like, does this count if I want a full Smash Brothers amiibo set? I'm like, it doesn't matter because I already have them. But one of the most interesting things in 2017 was the Super Mario cereal box.
Yeah, that's another one. That's another one.
I have an empty one and I have one that's never been opened.
It's an empty one. Have you tried the cereal?
I have. It's okay. It's berry flavored.
It was bad. It was bad.
It was okay.
It's a functional amiibo.
I'm not into the really sugary cereals. Okay. I like Honey Bunches of Oats. Good some Honey Nut Cheerios. Frosted Mini Wheats sometimes. Those are like maybe dabble in that a little bit. But this one was okay for like a bite or two. And then I was like, I'm good. Like it's a little too sugary, marshmallowy for me these days. But it was
such
cool.
a weird idea. Such a weird idea.
But it was a cool thing. It was very cool. It was cool to see Nintendo characters kind of like be prominent enough again because we just got out of the Wii U era. And, it was just kind of like, welp. We just feel like really down, just down in the dumps kind of thing. And the Mario cereal, it was cool to just see a Mario cereal. Just in stores, just see like, oh wow, this thing that I think is fun and cool to follow is getting a cereal that's in all these major retailers and stuff. Like I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like I'm like, you know what, this is neat. And
I don't even remember what you got for scanning it. It just says unlock special content.
Nothing really. It was labeled as
there's a question on the back of the box. It says, what is the name of the kingdom that Mario is known for saving? Is it A, the Super Kingdom, B, the Star Kingdom, C, the Mushroom Kingdom, or D, the Koopa Kingdom?
I thought it was somewhere in Europe. And it was there's also like, man, what's the name of Mario's brother? I know that's somewhere on the back of the box, I think. I don't know.
Are there different questions on different boxes?
There's a question about power-ups. There's a question about
who is Mario's brother and trusted sidekick? Bowser, Luigi, Toad, or Shy Guy?
Why the hell are you buying a Mario cereal and you don't know that? Yeah, 2017 was kind of that last big push for Amiibo. 2018 and onwards, it felt more like Amiibo was kind of like
you missed the Pikmin Amiibo.
I have that Amiibo. I love that Amiibo. It's
You
so
missed
good.
the Pikmin amiibo.
Launched with Hey Pikmin. That was one of
Hey
the best
Pikmin.
amiibo. It's very nice. I like
yeah.
that amiibo. That amiibo I do not have open. That is one of my sealed amiibo. Where I'm like,
Nice.
it looks
Nice,
so
nice.
nice. It looks so nice.
It's very nice. That's definitely one of the best ones. The fact they managed to get all of them on there is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, they also did some reprint. They've been doing consistent reprints. Around this time, Amiibo got the red Nintendo logo on the front, which might be kind of annoying to some Amiibo collectors if they want to get the original. Like, they reprinted a couple old Smash Brothers Amiibo here and there, and now they have the red logo on it, which is kind of annoying.
That's when they changed the back also, because the back would show Wii U and 3DS support, and then they'd say, oh, also Switch support, and now I think it's just Switch support.
Yeah. But 2018 was where Amiibo started to go downhill a little bit, not in terms of quality or anything, but just they didn't release as many, and a lot of Nintendo games just stopped supporting Amiibo. Like, there's a lot of Nintendo games that release around that time that just they don't support Amiibo. You know, in 2017, I would have expected like ARMS to get some Amiibo, like Splatoon did. And we never got that. You know, Min Min eventually got, you know, Amiibo released because she became a DLC character in Smash Bros. But still, I didn't know if it was something along the lines of like maybe the arms posed a problem. Just they were springy arms, so like maybe those they were worried about.
I mean, I think it only came down to just strictly financially. Nintendo, when they couldn't sell games, supplemented their income with plastic figures. When they shifted back to just to try to sell as many Switch games as they could, they probably couldn't expect people to also spend $150 per Amiibo drop on top of all the games they're trying to sell.
But in 2018, yeah, they were starting to kind of cut back quite a bit. Detective Pikachu released.
That was cool.
Finally.
Big boy.
It's a very large Amiibo for no reason other than just to make it big.
No reason.
No reason why it's so big. It's just big. I don't get it. It's fine. It's a good quality Amiibo. They also had another licensed Amiibo. You had the Dark Souls Amiibo.
Yeah, that's when I realized I was in too deep because I don't even like Dark Souls and I bought it.
Well, Dark Souls Remaster got delayed for the Switch. Did that one release when it was supposed to, like in May? Because Dark Souls Remastered released on all platforms in May, and it was originally supposed to come out on Switch in May. This website says it launched on May 25th, 2018.
That's what the PlayStation Store said. I would think so. But I remember this was at a time where it says October. I guess the Switch version got delayed, and then they still released the Amiibo on the proper date.
Well, either way, I mean that was kind of cool to see.
Yeah, another third-party one.
Just kind of a jokey Amiibo, though. That was just kind of like like, you know, like they were like, oh, isn't this silly?
Like I remember the significance of like Nintendo getting a big third-party game on their console and an Amiibo. Like, wow, we're getting like the Nintendo treatment for some third-party games. I don't know what it does in the game.
In addition to, I think its support is really lame because like I think that pose is kind of a joke with the Dark Souls fandom. And I think that Amiibo just unlocks, it has you do that pose or something. I don't know. But weirdly enough, that year, there was also other licensed ones. There was the Loot Goblin from Diablo 3.
Yeah. Bought this.
It's so weird because it's not even in. It's not
I only
even
bought
in
it because
like
Amiibo
box.
That's the only reason why I bought it, is because what is this box? I don't understand. Which, also, speaking of weird boxes, when they reprinted, or not reprinted, but they started to resell the Isabelle and Digby figures again after Amiibo Festival was long gone, and they came in just weird static boxes.
Oh, I think I saw.
Yeah. If you go, like, some GameStops, it's just a big Animal Crossing themed box, like not an Amiibo box with those, so it's very similar.
I think I recall seeing something like that, but yeah, I forgot completely about that. That is strange.
This says ages 15 and up on the side of the box. So you have to be 15 or older to enjoy.
Can't be too safe.
The Loot Goblin.
You can swallow that if you're not too careful. I think, but 2018 was where the Smash Brothers line came back with Ultimate. So that was where they started to re-release. I mean, they just started to release the characters that didn't have Amiibo originally, which was nice. Not much to say about it other than it's more Smash Brothers Amiibo. They were pretty easy to get. They weren't that hard.
Yeah, they were usually relisting Amiibo that when a new game was coming out, be like, just in case if you want some of the old Fire Emblem ones for the new game, we're gonna reprint them. But that was really about it. We glossed over some of the Monster Hunter ones too, because that was
yeah, the Monster Hunters were also licensed just made by Capcom pretty much. There's a lot of them. They did a lot for like Monster Hunter Stories.
Stories, I think Rise got some recently, and Stories 2 got a handful also.
Also in 2018, Splatoon 2 amiibo came out.
Yeah.
Well, Splatoon 2 amiibo came out alongside the original game. There were some Splatoon 2 designed characters, and then they eventually released the Pearl and Marina, and then the same day as Smash Ultimate, they had the Octolinks release. So there was not a lot, and 2019 was on the same. It was pretty much just more Smash Ultimate and Link's Awakening. And that's all I think.
The Shovel Knight trio looks like and man, I remember that stupid box I pre-ordered like 2 years beforehand. Like, they just took them, for whatever reason, took them forever to get them all out.
It was very odd. It was very odd because, like, they announced, like you said, like, they announced those way long ago, right? Like, they announced those, like, a while back.
This website doesn't even list the gold. Yeah, this website doesn't even list the gold Shovel Knight, which just randomly showed up too. That was another one, like the Gold Mario, where like websites were reporting on it and seeing it for the longest time, and they just took forever to actually announce it.
Very, very strange. But 2019 was a pretty, like, that just wasn't a ton happening for Amiibo that year.
No, they released, a lot of Smash ones, because this Ultimate was in full swing. And this led to a very weird issue where, like, the original characters are based off how they looked in Smash Wii U. All the new characters are based on how they looked on Ultimate, where the poses were way better, they made more sense, they were way more detailed. You look at how Mario and Link looked before, compared to their Ultimate renders, and compared to how the characters look, the models look for the new Amiibo, and it was such a stark difference. I almost was wondering, like, God, are they going to re-release every single character in their Ultimate pose and just make us do it all over again?
Yeah, I think they understand that that's asking quite a lot, but it's also like, I don't know. I think if they really felt like it, they might have been like, yeah, maybe. I mean, they know they'll make money off of that, but I think the problem is kind of figuring out, like, okay, how much do we print of these? Because how many people are really going to want to do this all over again? Because the Amiibo craze has kind of died down considerably.
It's like just Smash nowadays.
2020 was even worse because they only kind of did like a couple of Smash Brothers Amiibo, and that was it. That was pretty much it.
There was Link's Awakening also, end of 2019. So we got a Link's Awakening one.
That was 2019. Very cool Amiibo. That's another one that I have sealed. That's just kind of like just a very, very nice, cool little Amiibo, and I bought that alongside the game. I couldn't help myself. Yeah, 2020 wasn't, but that was where Amiibo started to become kind of lucrative again because of Animal Crossing New Horizons. Because you could, well, also, oh man, how could we forget? 2016, they had to do an entire update for Animal Crossing New Leaf to get rid of all those Amiibo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Animal Crossing
They had a couple new cards specifically for that. But yeah, they had to do the Welcome Amiibo update because they could not sell those damn Animal Crossing Amiibo. So their solution, which was a pretty good one, was let's update New Leaf with Amiibo functionality and a couple new features to get people playing it again, so then people feel the need to buy these Amiibo, because they don't right now, which was smart. But it really hit big because New Horizons was such a huge game, and people wanted to just milk it for all they could. They wanted to get the villagers they wanted to get, and that was a feature of Welcome Amiibo, and it transferred over to New Horizons. So those cards became so much more valuable. Those cards had so much more use now. The figures, still nothing.
No, not at all.
It was like,
not even close.
The villagers were all in the cards themselves. So you could invite villagers. You have the special ones right here that were just kind of like, they were just the NPCs. You can't really do much with those. But, these cards of just the villagers, you could invite them to your town, and that was a huge deal. So these cards became so lucrative, and they became really popular. And in 2021, they announced just straight up a new lineup of Amiibo cards. They announced Series 5, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So that just shows it's just like, for that Bowser Jr. Amiibo, just you wait.
You never know. Coming. Oh, I guess. Yeah. Speaking of cards, the Mario Sports Superstars also can't forget about that.
Yeah.
How can I possibly forget?
I own those. The only other type of amiibo card that they did.
The dumbest designs of reused art assets.
A cute idea in terms of like, hey,
Sure.
like kind of like baseball cards, sports cards, you know? That's where trading cards became big, is with sports cards, you know, trading baseball cards and all that. These, like, because Mario Sports Superstars was such kind of like a bad, just kind of like low budget kind of game that they just kind of farted out for the 3DS, just basically repurposing like golf and tennis assets from the 3DS and then just kind of making kind of lame baseball, soccer, and horseback riding games. They wanted to do these cards, but they put, I don't know. I like them because they're so bad.
I can't get over reusing DDR Bowser to like dance a soccer ball into the goal. There's the Wario holding his horse's head like this. It doesn't make any sense. They're so dumb.
There's a lot of stuff that I love about these, but they did have to make some new renders for random characters, specifically Metal Mario and Pink Gold Peach, which were unlockable characters in the game. So they had to make a lot of new character designs for these guys. Yeah, I'm seeing like the Mario Kart 7 Metal Mario render where he's leaning on like a pile of tires, but he's leaning on like a golf club here, pretty much. I love it.
It's the laziest thing I've ever seen. It's amazing.
This is one that I did get the full lineup for because I needed to. It's so, because like this is one where I'm like, nobody cared about this when it came out, so I'm just like, part of me is more attracted to it because nobody cared about it because it's so fun.
I'm surprised hasn't gone up in value.
Well, there's no point to them. There's no inherent value. Yeah, in 2021, there's a couple more amiibo stuff. Pretty much brings us to now, where they had the Skyward Sword HD amiibo, which was Zelda in the Loft Wing, and the Metroid Dread amiibo, which is Samus and the Emmy, which kind of brings us to the in-game support for amiibo, which strangely keeps on going up and down. You know, we're in 2021. Well, we're in 2022 right now, but in 2021, they released an amiibo like the Zelda in Loft Wing, where it had like a legitimately kind of useful feature. It's not necessary, but just being able to fast travel pretty much just be able to go up in the sky whenever you want. To go up in the sky in Skyward Sword, you have to go to the bird statues, but those are frequently around the game enough where it doesn't really matter that much. But still, you know, it's kind of a quality of life feature that feels kind of lame to lock that behind amiibo.
And it stings all the more so because they don't release amiibo as often anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like the 1 or 2 times they do, and then they pull that is very annoying.
Yeah, so it's very strange. But, you know, we'll be here all day if we just go through every single game that supports amiibo. So, like, just kind of tell me, like, what are some memorable ones to you? Bad, good, all that?
I did forget also. We glossed over that one. Another good one, because this is sealed. So that's another good one.
Yeah, that was a very interesting one. That was another one licensed but not, you know, made by Nintendo. Very, very odd one that they did it at that time, but very cool nonetheless.
Yeah.
I don't have that one. I would like it, but yeah, never got that one. Yeah, that's the thing. There were so many amiibo released, but it's easy to forget about some of them. Yeah, there's like some random cards that were in Japan only that were like,
yeah, I didn't even know about that. Like when I was doing research for this, there's like one of the MLB, like I don't know what they call them in Japan, there's MLB Power Pros in the States, but
the baseball game, I think by Konami or Hudson or something.
Yeah.
Even
there was some
Hudson is Konami,
Yu-Gi-Oh
something
cards.
Like
there was some Yu-Gi-Oh cards also.
It's very odd. There's so much stuff. But yeah, in terms of in-game support, what do you think of amiibo, like in terms of in-game support overall? What's your favorite use of in-game support, least favorite? What's some weird ones that you know? Like, just give me your full thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think it's best when you have a full game and then just a supplemental prize to owning the amiibo. So I think to Mario Maker and Yoshi's Woolly World, like these two very complete games, but like in Yoshi, like having all these different designs for all of the different characters you throw in, I thought was fantastic. And then they added more when the 3DS port came, and I'm like, that's great. Like it matches the idea because there were already a ton of costumes, so you know, perfect there. All the 8-bit sprites in Mario Maker with associated sound effects. It opened the door creatively to have people making stages based off of Toon Link and making a water level and making a lot of enemy levels for. I don't think Bayonetta was in there, but you know, it allowed for more creative options.
I don't think
that.
she was either, but yeah.
I remember thinking like, God, for Mario Maker 2, they really should. I can't wait to see all the new amiibo they throw in. They didn't do that at all. Yeah, it was just a lot of small things. I remember the Toad one for Captain Toad. You had like the 8-bit Toad scavenger hunt thing, which you then didn't need for the
Dumb
Switch
as
port.
hell. Dumb as hell.
Shovel Knight, you would get like the little Shovel Knight like fairy characters, I think, for all the 4 of the playable characters, and that was cute.
Well, Shovel Knight also unlocked co-op, right? That was what Shovel Knight.
Yeah. Co-op was in there. I think you could. I think there was like a way you can save stats and stuff to the characters too, but I don't fully remember.
I think Woolly World and Mario Maker are easily the best ones. Mario Maker, you don't even need the amiibo. You can just play through, the game and unlock them. But yeah, I think Woolly World was really cool. I loved Planet Robobots. And it was very simple.
That was where you got different abilities, right?
Yeah, which you didn't really get a ton of exclusive ones. I think there was like 1 or 2 where like the Smash Brothers one. You unlock the Smash Brothers ability, which was from an older Kirby game, but you scan the Smash Brothers Kirby and you get the Smash Brothers ability. But I love just like that experimentation of like, them just kind of assigning moves that feel the most like those characters, because it wasn't like, oh, you become Mario, but you get the fire ability if you put Mario on. You get the sword ability as when you put Link on. You get
they made a doctor
ESP
ability.
Yeah.
So you get Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario. You get ESP for doing Ness, which I thought was awesome. I love that. I thought that was so cute and fun. But then you have like stuff like Hyrule Warriors, which just kind of unlocked just like random stuff, which is just like, okay, cool, but nothing.
I mean, I can appreciate it based on the game, because I want to say like the Miitopia for Switch did the same thing, where you would just like get items. And if you're like really binging a game, it's like, okay, I already have all these figures. I guess I can just go for it. Why not? Like this cute little thing, which whatever. But and like it's one of those. It's like that walking that fine line again, where like Skyward Sword and Metroid, you have like these really nice quality of life features, and people get upset. And then you have amiibo functionality that's too minimal, and people get upset. So it's a tough balancing act. I think, God, one of the weirdest ones, Codename Steam.
Yep.
Where you just unlock the Fire Emblem characters
Lincoln together at last.
It's so perfect. Strange.
Mario Kart 8 had some fun ones where you got to unlock the amiibo costumes for your Mii. It involved like where it's just like, yeah, you have Sonic content in Mario Kart now. You have Pac-Man, Mega Man content there. You can dress up as Captain Falcon, which is cool. You get like some cool stuff like that. There are some times where games will have amiibo support, but they only support like 2 amiibo or something like that, and at that point I'm kind of like, this is kind of strange. Little Nightmares on Switch supports the Pac-Man amiibo, yeah. Which is just kind of funny. But then you also have like Picross 3 Round 2, which has some really cool ideas for amiibo support, where you scan the characters and you get like puzzles based on them, but it only really works with like a couple of them, like it's like Kirby amiibo, Mario. I think that's like it. Maybe Zelda ones. I'm trying to see.
I think there might be a Zelda one. Yeah, I pulled up. Yeah, Bye Bye Box Boy. You can get your costumes that look like the Kirby characters, but that's it.
But then there's also like the games made specifically just for amiibo. You remember Amiibo Tap?
I try not to. That was one of the dumbest things Nintendo's ever done.
I think it would have been so cool if they did something where you just get a straight up virtual console game. Where like, oh, I get even like something more specific like the 8-bit Mario amiibo. Let's say I buy the 8-bit Mario amiibo and it says it just comes with the original Super Mario Brothers. Like we all have that. But that's
like that was a cool idea. The problem with Amiibo Tap was it was a random NES game.
Demos.
It was a random game. You could pop a Kirby amiibo and be like, okay, now you can play Metroid for 2 minutes, and it was permanently tied to that specific amiibo.
It's kind of cool. It's a cool idea. I'm upset that they wasted the name Nintendo's Greatest Bits on that game.
Yeah, and I mean like that's what they tried with like Mini Mario and Friends. Touched on earlier. But then it also walked this fine line where there's not a lot of content that you actually unlock. You unlock 4 pretty boring levels for each character. And it's like, cool. So like the idea that I think Nintendo is trying to work on is we're going to make it so you buy an amiibo and are wanting to use it on a handful of games. not just one. So even if the usefulness is minimal, you already had it, so enjoy it. And that wasn't really sustainable. Like there's weird ones on this list. Like One Piece in Japan for 3DS had a bunch of costumes.
Ace Combat on 3DS
had costumes. This one is weird. The Nico Nico app, I guess, could use the Callie and Marie ones. That's WarioWare Gold. That one was amazing.
What was the amiibo support for that?
Where there was Wario would draw a sketch of the character.
I've completely forgot about that. Yeah,
and they were all abominations except for the Wario ones.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I think like there are some with like some pretty fun ideas or cool ideas. Mario Party 10 almost gets there, but it's not fun. It's something where the Amiibo Party mode in that game is so like it gives you like that taste of like the original Mario Party, where you have like, oh, this is formatted just like the original Mario Party, but the boards are just squares, you know, there's nothing to them. And then on top of that, you have to tap the amiibo every time you want to roll the dice and move your character. And I can't believe they thought, one, that was fun, and two, they did it again with Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. They made an entire game based on that concept the same year. I'm just like, this is stupid. Also, another amiibo that we forgot, Poochie, for Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World. They brought back the yarn thing for Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, which was fantastic. I have that one. That's still in its box, too. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I think Mario Maker is the best use for amiibo, bar none. I think Hey Pikmin is also kind of cool.
That was...
You can collect the amiibo. Like, the amiibo show up in the game. And it,
oh, that's right.
It's pretty much the Nintendo developed amiibo one. I think it's pretty much just Mario and Animal Crossing.
I mean, I really wish third parties knew that the amiibo were there. Like Mega Man 11 again. Like, since it's just a Mega Man one, you could pull out the Smash one also, and you get the same functionality out of it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
You know, all the Mario ones count as that. But like, I wish these companies know, like, oh, okay, we have a Cloud amiibo. So let's say when Chocobo GP is on the Switch, there is a season pass to unlock Cloud as a character, or if you have the Cloud amiibo, boom. Like, the idea, it should, like, maybe the companies think that there's too much reliance on them needing to restock them, and they don't see that as worth it. It's tough. It just never seemed like it was right for them to lock content behind things that they can't tell the third-party companies what to do. Even though there's so many cool things that they could do behind that stuff.
I mean, back when the amiibo first came out, the first couple years, $13 for each amiibo, I don't think that was that bad. That was some of the better priced Toys to Life figures. Eventually, nowadays, they're like $16, or like even something like the Zelda and Loftwing, that's like $25, which I'm just like...
Man, even then, I remember that was... I was buying all mine from Best Buy, and that's when Gamers Club was still a thing. So I wasn't even spending $13. I was spending like less on that.
$10 or something like that. Yeah, I was the same way.
Now they're just like double the price almost.
Yeah, which it's fine, you know, because like the quality is much better now. The quality significantly improved throughout its life. You know, you look back at those first few back in like November of 2014, and it is crazy. You know, like, yeah, the Zelda and Loftwing amiibo for Skyward Sword HD. Yeah, it's pretty pricey comparative, but the quality of it alone is phenomenal. That looks so much better than like just comparing like the original Zelda amiibo for Smash Brothers, or even like the Zelda Breath of the Wild amiibo, as in like the Zelda, the character for that game. Like, just comparing that to Skyward Sword Zelda on that amiibo, it's night and day. It looks so much better. They got so good at sculpting the faces and details with like the feathers on the Loftwing. It's very, very good. I always, and I think I've talked about this numerous times, but I am serious, where I think the perfect amiibo game would have been an Amiibo Warriors game by Koei Tecmo. Nintendo works with Koei Tecmo a lot for these Warriors games, but they keep doing just Zelda and Fire Emblem, and that's it. And I think it would have been awesome if it's something where you scan an amiibo and you play as that character in a Warriors type game. And even if it's like something weird, like, you know, like one of the Animal Crossing villagers, and you don't want to, you know, develop movesets for 500 Animal Crossing villagers. Just make it so then it's just like a little bonus. Maybe like, oh, your character has like a cool weapon based on that character or something like that, or you unlock a collectible or something. I always thought it would be cool if there was just a general Nintendo card. There were more Nintendo cards where maybe like you just got kind of like anything on those cards. It could have been something like, oh, this piece of Nintendo history, do you remember the NES or something like that? Or something like that. I don't know. There was a lot of missed potential with Amiibo, in my opinion. And it kind of stinks because we're getting to a point where I don't see it's going away, but it's kind of just whenever Nintendo feels like making them.
Yeah, like when Metroid, where like Metroid could have just happened. They didn't need to make Amiibo. No, the conversation was always because Skylanders was the thing. Oh, Nintendo should do. We can't wait to see Nintendo do their own take on something like this. And
which are you?
They never did.
Are you happy that they never did that? Their version of that is probably Amiibo Festival, because that's like the only major game of theirs that was retail, that was bundled with Amiibo, that straight up requires them. You can't get past the title screen without scanning an Amiibo. Are you upset that you never got that Skylanders-esque game? Or are you kind of content with how things kind of played out with Amiibo?
So my thing with Skylanders is because they have to work towards the lowest common denominator, you get a pretty bare bones experience that works for the demographic that they're achieving to get, but you can't really have like as fulfilling of an experience, especially with however many Amiibo there are. I don't know what the right outcome is. I mean, I think that's part of the reason I'm on like the Nintendo Smash Kart train, because I feel like that could be a good idea that utilizes it. But then longevity wise, you know, everyone will talk about preserving a game as they should be. You know, if we talk about eShops closing and all that, and then we think 5 years down the line, what content did they lock behind the figures? That if I want to play the game, the figures are impossible to get. I mean, I guess I could emulate the figures on my phone, which is something I know you can do. And then it just becomes this whole big thing, and it's like, I don't know. I do wish Nintendo just did more crossover games in general. I think there's so much potential outside of just fighters that could then make usefulness of these figures. Yeah, I guess just in terms of at the time, am I happy that we didn't get one? I mean, I guess, because I feel like we'd have a totally different conversation now that probably wouldn't be all that positive.
I think now, if any time we could get like a full Amiibo supported game, it will be now, just because there's so many available that if you wanted to do like one that just encompassed everything, because that's what I think everybody wanted, was just like, and not everybody, but more so like, you know, people that wanted that Amiibo experience. Be like, I want all of the Amiibo figures supported. And that's why games like Mario Maker and Woolly World are some of our favorites, because they pretty much supported all of them at the time. You know, you could scan pretty much any, like, it wasn't just the Mario series Amiibo, it wasn't just the Nintendo developed Amiibo for Mario Maker. You got the third parties, you got random stuff that was just like, wow, why? You know, and it was really cool. And I think if any time it would be cool, it would be now, because there's so many Amiibo, but that's the problem, is there's so many Amiibo to take into account. And I think Nintendo is kind of, they're not over Amiibo, but they're kind of over it being a lucrative part of their business. It's more so, hey, we think it would be cool to make this Amiibo, and we could do something cool in game with it, but other than that, we're just going to kind of go on an a case-by-case basis, whether or not we're going to do Amiibo support in this specific game. Because there's a lot of like Switch games that just straight up don't support Amiibo, which, you know, like some of them I'm kind of like, this would have made perfect sense. But then they randomly bring up, we forgot, the Mario 3D World Amiibo that launched with Mario 3D World, where it's just like randomly they were like, we're doing Amiibo for this. I'm like, okay.
That wasn't even in the Direct also. I remember they're in the Mario Direct. They said the game's coming out, and then you have to go to Twitter and be like, also there's Amiibo coming out.
Yeah.
So it's like the priorities have definitely shifted.
Yeah, where it felt like every single game they had to release had to support Amiibo. Star Fox Zero supported Amiibo, and you got like the R-Wing, the retro R-Wing with Fox, and you got like a different kind of R-Wing with Falco, and you know, but randomly other games wouldn't support Amiibo. Paper Mario Color Splash didn't support Amiibo, which is kind of like, okay. You know, it's just random stuff where it's just like that's odd. But overall, I kind of feel like there was just a lot of missed potential with Amiibo, but it didn't matter at the end of the day because Nintendo made their money from it. So it's something where it's just like, it does feel very much like a much more successful variant of what happened with the e-reader, where the e-reader just kind of like, Nintendo just kind of did e-reader stuff when they wanted to, and that was about it. But you know what, like, I'm pretty content with what I got, and I think it's cool to know that every now and then we'll get something new. But I can't help but look back and feel a little like, man, they could have done more with this, but the journey along the way was a lot of fun. I'm always going to look back at...
2016 was such an insane year, where Nintendo fans were fine because we had a bunch of plastic.
Yeah, where that was pretty much what carried us through the Wii U generation.
And I mean, that, to be fair, that trend also continued because the NES Classic and the SNES Classic were handled in a very similar way. Just there's these random drops that there were people complaining about stock issues all the time, and they were just a means to help supplement Nintendo's income during the dire times that they had.
Yeah, it was always kind of just a way for Nintendo to just kind of like, just tiptoe around if they didn't have a game or they didn't have something to really sell people. The NES Classic felt exactly like that. That was pretty much just why that existed, was because they didn't have, like, the Switch was probably supposed to launch in holiday 2016, and they were like, all right, let's just do the NES Classic. And because, like, a lot of stuff got delayed and 2015 was so dire for Nintendo in terms of, like, having not, like, a good holiday game, they kind of were like, all right, Mega Yarn Yoshi and a bunch of this stuff. And they were like, all right, well, let's try to make Animal Crossing the next big thing. I have a lot of nostalgia for looking back and getting genuinely excited over dumb garbage, like, a bunch of figurines that I didn't use. And frankly, I look back at that and I'm just like, man, I could have spent that money on games or something else that I would actually use. Instead, these things, I put them in this this bin, and most people
that's on you. You gotta go and get, I think they're Detolf shelves from IKEA, these nice glass display cases, get a bunch of those spice racks. I got that in the other room. Make them look nice. That's how you got to do it. You're doing that to yourself by keeping them in a box like that.
Was it in like the kitchen or something? Which room is it in?
No. It's just next to my TV in the living room.
I do like the idea that it's in any. I like the idea that it's in like kitchen or something like that.
Just to show off.
Yeah.
This is my salt and pepper shaker next to my very expensive QB amiibo.
Hey, if you're you got to be careful. You might mistake one for the other. I don't know.